Hello, and thank you, Dr. Stevens, for agreeing to provide your insight and experiences with integrating technology and curriculum for adult learners in the Command and General Staff College, which is part of the Army University located here at Fort Leavenworth.
I'm Wendell Stevens. Actually come from Texas, but via the Army I've gotten to travel all around the world. I've been teaching online classes for the last 10 years for the Department of Distance Education here at the Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth. And I started teaching. I had never taught an online class before, had never taken an online class before, so it was quite interesting learning experience, probably more so for my students. When I finally did take I got into an online degree program with Capella, did a doctorate in teacher leader in digital transformation. And going through that, I learned how utterly ignorant I was. I think I've actually figured I'm more ignorant now, or at least consciously ignorant. But I now see how I treated my first 5 years of students and try to do much better. So my primary duties here at the Department of Distance Education is I'm an online instructor in a master's level degree program for military studies. I do have two additional duties that take up a lot of my time as well. I'm the content manager for Blackboard for our program, and so we manage that year to year. And then I'm also kind of informally the faculty developer for our faculty here. All of that involves Blackboard quite a bit, and integration, basically not just the simple having content in there, but how do we use all the tools as instructors for our students? Also, how do we use the live component of Blackboard Collaborate Ultra and improve upon that to include making recordings that we can use for podcasts, etc. And then also, how do we use the different mobile apps for both the instructor and student app? So over the time, we've actually added other things outside of that, Google products, the use of Pronto within Blackboard, and as well as other text-based programs like GroupMe and WhatsApp, etc. Well, as I mentioned, our program teaches students online in military studies, such that generally they're trying to solve military problems that they might face out across the world. And so we look at different regions around the world. Well, our resident curriculum that we get has either paper maps or have maps on PowerPoint or maps in PDF. While they're somewhat helpful, it's very difficult for students to manipulate them and share them, etc. So our students actually created the solution, and that was the use of Google Maps back in 2015. And they actually were the first ones to convert or replicate these PowerPoint and PDF products in a Google Map format. And one thing that's nice about Google Maps is you can add layers to the map and turn those layers on and off. It's a collaborative product, so they could share it and work on it simultaneously, as well as they could make their own copies. And they ultimately, when we got to do planning, they could take their different parts and roles and they could war game their plans in Google Maps. So it was just a far superior product than the simple PowerPoint files and PDF files they were using. And we just have adopted that and started to make that a standard product in our own online curriculum. Yeah, so probably three things really stand out with that. One is just the training of that. It was student driven, so the instructors had to start getting smart on that. And then we also had to train students in turn when we started sharing that as a standard product. So in cases where you maybe get top driven down technology, that comes with a training package. In this case, it was bottom up. So we had to come up with our own training plan. Somebody had to take responsibility for it. That initially fell on me because it's my students that created it. So Wendell gets to create the training plan. So, but we did that internally. So I would say the training of students and faculty, especially when it's organic, is a little more challenging than top down. Two other things that kind of stand out is sometimes there's that mentality of, Carol Dweck talks about the growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And, that's among educators as well as students. And so having new technologies you got to deal with. not all of would ready to adapt to it. I mean, they got the basics in Blackboard, but we're fine with it. So we still to this day have instructors who use the PDF and PowerPoint products, will not get a Gmail account, won't adapt to the Google Maps, even though their students are hungry for it and ready for it. So there's the mentality. And then administratively, it kind of gets into, this is great, it's free, but sometimes technology has cost. And we're kind of running in the gray area where, we got thousands of students now using Google Maps. Do they mind? And then also we have students who don't have full access like their peers do because they're using military computers, which may not access Google Maps. So we run into that issue time to time. I think overall we feel the rewards outweigh the risk. Well, obviously Google Maps was a success, but I was thinking beyond that, it's really the simple things like text-based apps that we've added to our program. Blackboard has Pronto, is a text-based app.
Yeah, can you describe that? What that is?
So Pronto is something you can get on your phone. It'd be like there's other text-based apps like GroupMe, WhatsApp. Those where it's right on your phone. You can immediately send a quick text back and forth. Sometimes you can immediately turn it into a quick video chat you want with peers. So it's immediacy. And folks seem to have their phones 24/7 now, so you get that immediate connection, passing on of information. Whereas our Blackboard, which is our primary technology, it's great in sharing a lot of information, both curriculum and about instruction and news, but it's very passive. You've got instructions that may be there for days or weeks. You've got discussion boards that last for weeks. You got blogs and other things. Again, those are great, but they're passive, and you may not know if the other person even ever read the material, but not with a text-based app. So I think especially as our whole education is moving more and more to synchronous online, students, especially if they're going to be collaborative, all need that immediacy as well as the larger foundational. What's interesting is we've talked about different components. We got these text-based apps, we got Blackboard, we've got a feature to do the live classes. So there's all these different parts and pieces and different technologies sometimes you have to use. But I think some of the greatest failures have come in when we had tried to use some app that combined it all in one, a one-shot solution. Like there's Slack. I was actually trying to remember the program we tried in 2016 that was, and I can't even remember, it's not even worthwhile anymore because we use it so shortly, where, supposedly you could come in and you had your email feature, you had text, you had video, you had file sharing, you could kind of connect it to your LMS and other apps. So it literally would do everything. And probably for business that may have a use, but in our education environment, it just fell flat every time we tried to use it with students because I think that's because we're still at the point we're still using a lot of separate hardware, a phone, a tablet, a desktop, to do the things that we've done traditionally for a long time. And so I just don't think we're ready to jump into just one thing yet. We haven't made that transition yet. That will come, but anyway, I think those are some of the big disappointments. We put a lot of energy into it, frustrated students for a while, and then moved on.